Watem here, welcome back to small Umineko When They Cry. Let us continue. Venkasto had walked away and was apparently making fun of Erika. Ben, and of course Erika, were both drunk. If they were left alone, they'd probably forget about this. It's true that this envelope has no sender written on it. However, the seal done on it in gold leaf. It fills the same purpose. Seal is. Lambda Delta hid behind a pillar, ripped the envelope open, took out its contents and read them. Her eyes instantly started to glint, and she smiled like a kid who's just thought of a nasty trick.
いかがしますか。狙撃犯は赤色弾頭を携行しています。
Why is the sniper team carrying warheads?
ご許可をいただければ装填命令を出します。
何言ってんのよ。今日はどんだけ豪華な来賓が来てると思ってんの？万一参列者に流れ弾が当たったら、シエスタ近衛隊の新しい妹たちは向こう10年は工場から弾頭台に直行しなきゃなんないくらいの責任になるわよ。
So they make new ones specifically to send them to the guillotine? That seems wasteful. Surely those materials could be put to better use.
了解。通常弾頭で対応するであります。
Oh.
煉獄の7姉妹には監視をつけますか。
いるわけないでしょ。
Oh?
だって7区はバトラの、そして今やエリカの家具じゃない。どうして味方に監視をつけちゃうの？とにかく警備をまあそこそこにちゃちゃっと厳重にしなさい。
But what if they're not? Or, yeah, what if they're not Erika's furniture and still loyal to Battler? Or what if they're not battlers?
先ほどガートルード上席補佐官より準戦闘配備勧告を受けました。理由は不明であります。
ガートルードがじゃあ勧告に従っちゃいなさい。パーティーは賑やかな方がいいってことでしょ。
了解であります。WO よりシエスタ17、シエスタ38、シエスタ45、コード R、警戒発令。レベル2で待機を伝達。17コピー、38コピー、45了解。そこでコピーといえばかっこいいのにね。焦っちゃってつい。そうそう45、ちょっとこっち来て。なんです？ちょっと今中です。ダメ、耳をいじんないで。
My first thought was maybe they've been infiltrated, but maybe not.
耳？
Huh?
おっとくん。
Huh?
なんですって？冗談でしょ？ありえない。
現在コーネリアを向かわせています。ベアトリーチェがここを襲撃する可能性が極めて大です。披露宴を中断されて退避されることを進言いたします。
In our moment of victory or glory, or what? What's the quote from Star Wars?
どうしたのエリカ。何か余興に手違いでも？いえ我が主、どうぞ引き続き披露宴をお楽しみください。あ、誰かメルンカステル卿に梅干しワインのおかわりを。
Erika didn't have time to hide her agitation. When Venkasto saw this, she knew that their final late guest had finally arrived.
ルシネ、 ゲストハウスで動きがあったそうよ。
ゲストハウス？ゲーム版のことなんか今はくだらない話だわ。
それが密室のいとこ部屋からカノン君が失踪したって。
はあ？あんた分かってんの？いとこ部屋は扉も窓も完璧に封印されてる完全密室じゃない。失踪なんて不可能だわ。いや、私も裏を取ってきた。間違いない。カノンはいとこ部屋より姿を消している。
いとこ部屋のどこかに隠れてるとか、あるいは最初からうまくごまかしてもともと部屋に入ってなかったとか。
That button read
不
text.
可能だわ。いとこ部屋にはエリカ卿が読み上げた特定個人数名以外の全員が入ってることが保証されてるのよ。ごまかして逃れることは不可能だわ。どうやってユングフラウの封印結界を？
Well, seals assume that they leave through an exit. If you make a new exit, but it's not observed, it's hardly a hidden door. It's destructive, and entering the room would reveal its existence, but because you're only checking the exits, you wouldn't necessarily realize that they've broken through the wall.
いや、それよりカノンは一体どこへ？至急探しなさい。
At that moment, the cathedral suddenly went black. Surprised commotion of the guests filled the cathedral.
来たわね。
WO よりオールシエスタ、コード R 警戒。シエスタ17、電源系統回復はネガティブ。管理室スタッフとの通信が途絶中。オールシエスタ、コードレッド、ロックンロール。
コピー。
コピー。コピー。
了解。あ、じゃなくてコピー。
Sniper teams and the chandeliers all released their safeties at once. The entire security team down the hall loaded their ammunition.
エリカ卿、控室へ退避を。ここは危険です。
何が危険なんです？この世界の領主は私です。その私が何に怯えて逃げろと言うんです？
ガートルード、要人警護結界準備。コーネリアを至急呼び戻すのです。
緊急対応中なり。結界？あんたらの無様までみっともない結界で婚礼衣装の私を包もうってんですか？
Sounds like a stupid thing to do, say.
なんたら侮辱！
Yeah, I found the quote, by the way, I was looking for. Evacuate? In our moment of triumph? I think you overestimate their chances. And Moff Tarkin, shortly before the destruction of the Death Star. Anyway, this disturbance made even Battler groan, as he sat in the next seat over like a doll. Even with his soul sealed, Battler probably realized that something strange was going on.
遅かったじゃない。ね、ラムダ。
そうね。待ちくたびれちゃったわね。
さっきのあれ、何？
What was what? La-di-da-di-da.
誰からのラブレター？
Something like that?
ファンレターよ。 ラムダちゃんファンクラブの
And they also played dumb and munched some popcorn. Then the lights finally turned on. It was clear that during that blackout, Beatrice had snuck in somewhere nearby, possibly even inside the cathedral itself. The whispering demon attendants all realized it as well. Whose scheme was this? And what were they doing? Though it may have been imprudent, they were looking forward to this. An excited chatter filled the cathedral.
来たみたいね。カープ、あなたもう戻ってきていいんですか？私にほら牢屋って意味ないし。
確かに。
でもリーチェ、バトラの密室もいとこ部屋も、そして唯一可能性のあった隣部屋も全て封じられてしまった。どうやってバトラを救い出す気なの？
How indeed. That is why we're in the answer of, right?
お嬢様が何かのトリック X を用意できたと仮定しましょう。となれば、それをエリカ卿に突きつけるべく乗り込んでくるは必至。
しかしこの大勢のシエスタ兵たちが相手では、まさかこんなに隠れていたなんて。無理だわ、縫い殺されてしまう。
Gravity is stashed all about the hall. Incredible that she could remain hidden and unnoticed with so many people around.
エリカに一度だけ肉薄するチャンスがあれば、五分の勝負まで持ち込めるわ。
なるほど、その手ですか。しかし、そのアイテムをお嬢様がお持ちだといいのですが。
Whatever it is, certainly.
いつも面倒くさがって、いくらご用意しても嫌われていましたからな。やれやれ、最後まで世話の焼けるお嬢様だ。
Oh, Renove. Amid the crowd, Renove took something out and showed it. When Vigilia saw, she understood what that in his hand meant. True, with that, it should be possible to stop the attacks from the Siesta troops.
まあ、エリカに聞かなきゃそれまでだけどね。問題は、たった一度でもいいから、エリカの真正面まで行けるかだわ。シエスタたちはそれを断固阻止するはずよ。リーアなら、その時間をプレゼントできそうね。
Vigilia gave a small nod. However, the problem was the two Siesta troops standing at her back. Since the time she tried to jump out in front of the procession, she had been marked constantly. It was possible, with Vigilia's vast magical power, to momentarily take out all of the Siesta troops in the cathedral. That would only gain a short bit of time, but it would be enough to confront Erika. The Siesta troops knew this, so they kept a close eye on Vigilia with tense faces. At that moment, the great cathedral door was blasted to bits. Who would be there but... Oh, the fragments became bright gold butterflies, which danced across the room in a beautiful blizzard of gold leaf. That golden storm slowly faded away. Then, at the entrance to that red-carpeted path to the grave, a calm, majestic figure was.
警護隊、射殺せよ。
ネガティブ、身元照合中。
Lana ordered the guards to shoot the intruder right away, but Siesta Zero didn't respond. Was it because she'd been warned about shooting the guests, and was afraid of the consequences of possibly shooting a drunk guest pulling some sort of prank? No. Double-O was just coolly and calmly carrying out her duty.
おや、これは。てっきりご欠席かと思っていましたよ。
The pair faced each other from either end of the long red carpet. However, In between them stood several dozen siesta honor guards.
最高の来賓であるあなたがお越しにならないのでご心配申し上げておりましたとも。でもせめて披露宴には間に合ってよかった。
Or Beto laughed. That chuckle made Battler's eyes quiver slightly.
お前は。
待たせたな、フルドエリカ。祝福に来たぜ。
He had an overpowering and evil presence about her, strong enough to make anyone shiver. So really, any need to confirm her identity now? Who else could possess such an overwhelming presence?
ベアトリーチェー。
地獄で会おうぜはわらわの好む別れの挨拶言葉であるが。
Seems we're already there.
身元確認。大ベアトリーチェ教徒確認。
まさにここがそうだぜ。フルドエリカ
At that moment, two siesta troops standing behind Vigilius slumped over and fell to the floor. Renove had touched the bases of their big ears from behind. It was clear that he had applied some sort of magic.
どなたかお医者様を。
Oh no, how tragic. They've suddenly spontaneously collapsed. Someone should get a doctor.
お嬢さん方が貧血のようだ。
オールシエスタオープンファイヤー。ベアト今です。
Vigilia going all out. Just an instant before the siesta troops could fire, Vigilia raised her arms to the heavens. Well, stained glass had shattered that time. Her magical power, which was more than enough to remind all present what her name had meant at the height of her strength, became a spirit wave that exploded throughout the cathedral. Indeed, because, while there might have been a pair of siesta sisters watching her closely, all siesta sisters had been ordered to fire on Beatrice. Shockwave made the stained glass window shatter, and colourful glass shards poured down everywhere.
冷戦防御復旧急げ。
However, all of the siesta honor guards who didn't have spirit particle defences toppled over like dolls. The ceiling snipers were defended and able to avoid a crash, but it would take several minutes before the system could be rebooted. Span of time could be enough to reach Erika. I don't know, maybe they'll spend 6.5 minutes monologuing and then she'll have another 10 seconds to sprint over? However, it wouldn't be possible to defeat Erika in just a few minutes. There was no way they'd be able to carry Battler away in that time. What else could they use this precious time for? Beato dashed down the red carpeted path. He ran down the path to the grave, which was lined by siesta troops lying there like corpses. He had called this place hell. In that case, running from hell to the grave was actually going backwards. Beato's figure dashing through the corpse-ridden path truly symbolized her resurrection.
お嬢様、これを。
もらうぞ。
As she dashed, she snatched something white from Renove's outstretched hand. There was no longer anyone blocking her path to Erika. However, at that instant, a golden thread came from in front of her and rapidly sewed through the red carpet towards her like a sewing machine.
邪魔者がいたか。
再装填完了。データ要求に。射撃用レーダー補足。410エテータリンク。
Okay, apparently got 30,000 clicks. Watem was clever. He predicted that Vigilia would go for a spirit particle attack, and had faltered her ears in 45 over beforehand. Ah, that's why she was playing with her ears. Severe are the only ones who weren't taken out.
射撃。
Once again, the golden sewing thread chased after Beato, weaving like a sewing machine. It was as though an undulating golden snake was shooting after her.
こしゃくな。エリカとの一騎打ちに貴重な時間を邪魔しよって。
Beato jumped sideways away from the red carpet and dashed across the long table covered with beautiful food. Said that way. The gold snake chased her, sewing through the pure white tablecloth like a sewing machine, scattering dishes left and right. The great attendants ran about wildly, trying to escape. The cathedral was wrapped in pandemonium.
霊視攻撃を避けていたウサギがいたなんて。
まずい。あんなところに陣取られてはどうにもなりません。
A pair of snipers, attacking from the chandelier high above, were much further away than Erica was, too far for Beato to reach. Furthermore, their position landed the entire cathedral inside their range of fire.
お気の毒に、ベアトリーチェ様。恋の試練は過酷に。45、追加弾
これ
Gab handed her the magazine. 45 always handed them over backwards, so 410 was a bit confused to have one handed to her the right way up. Huh?
話すにえ。
No matter how distant a position they might take, it was no problem for the elusive Garp. Garp twisted their long ears up and tickled them with her thumbs. The siesta's greatest weapon was also their greatest weakness. Two doubled over with laughter.
この2匹は抑えたけど、あと何秒？他のシエスタが再起動する。
And the other chandeliers, even more powerful siestas, were slowly starting to move again. It would be impossible to buy any more time.
ガープか。ありがたい。本に切る。リーアたちも褒めてあげて。
ベアト、頑張りなさい。しっかり。
もう時間がありませんぞ。
エリカ
Beato cut through the crowd of scampering goats like Moses. Her goal was straight in front of her, the place where Erica and Battler was seated. Then, the red barrier took form, blocking her path. It was the VIP guarding barrier that Gertrude had set up. She stepped forward, laid out a last line of defense to block Beato's path.
金系。これ以上の接近を許さないものと知りたまえ。
Not said in red, she may get closer.
そんな壁でわらわを止められると思うか。
シエスタ再起動まであと何秒です。30秒ないです。
As the oldest of the Seven Sisters' Purgatory, Lucifer stood in waiting behind the bride and groom. She wanted to save Beato. She could just distract Gertrude for a moment. The wall would disappear. However, Seven Sisters with furniture. They served the territory lord. So, they couldn't move to help Beato. Lana glanced over at Lucifer. There was a coercive tint to her eyes.
あなたは主の命令ない限り動くことは許されません。
主って誰よ。バカね。エリカのやつってことになってるでしょ。違うわよ。私たちの主はバトラ様だわ。
そう。エリカはその代理に過ぎない。
そうよ、姉様。私たちは誰の家具？美味しすぎるわ。つまみ食いしちゃおう。
The red, absolute barrier flickered for just an instant. Basil Bob's stake had pierced Gertrude's shoulder. Her concentration had wavered, but it didn't break. However, slowly and expressionlessly, Gertrude turned to look at Lucifer.
誰の命令なり、エリカ教にその指示はなきなりと知りたまえ。
あるわ。我らが主の命令よ。
Oh, is he standing?
物家の主に何を命令できるというなり。
物聞かずとも。それを察するが、家具の道と見つけたり。
なら、やむなし。
Seven stakes shot at Gertrude at once. Gertrude had chosen to take all of those direct attacks, refusing to abandon the barrier until the last moment. Though she was resilient enough to be called a literal Iron Maiden, it received no damage at all. It was more than enough to make her flinch and lose control of the barrier. Currently not your furniture. Beate shot through the scattered red fragments of the barrier. And she was finally right in front of her bride, her rival, Erica. However, there stood the final shield protecting Erica. The sentenced Delano.
遅いです。もはや時間切れです。ベアトリチェ卿。
Beatrice arrives exactly when she intends to, neither early nor late.
シエスタ17よりオールシエスタへデータリンク。大天使衛星よりデータ誘電。誘導方式氷結型概念誘導。
シエスタ20再起動完了。
シエスタ127再起動完了。
タイムオーバーに。そこらめ。
リーチ、コー。
ドラロール。
どけ、ドラノール・エーノックス。そなたの出番はない。
あなたを否定する赤き真実はベルンカステル教より賜っています。ここがあなたの墓場となり残念です。
I don't know what Berncastill has allowed her to say. However, I don't need to sit around and let that longsword tell me.
そなたとは後でたっぷりと遊んでやろう。だが今はどけ。
There's no time. Chestus has already finished reactivating. I'm only living on a bit of borrowed time.
聞くのはあなたの方です。出番を間違えた哀れな出演者があなたです。
Lana's red longsword cut a large arc of absolute denial, which headed straight for the crown of Berta's head. However, in that instant, there was a thunk. The curve missed slightly. Berta didn't let his good fortune, I'm not sure about it being good fortune, go to waste. He slipped past the longsword, knocked Lana aside, and finally stood right in front of Erika. This time, not a single person stood in her way.
これはポップコーンどこから
緊急花嫁警護役より緊急要請シエスタ姉妹近衛隊は直ちに侵入者を射殺し立てまつれ
This is as good a time as any to end it here for today. I hope you've all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. Until next time, see ya.